Are we ready to jump in?
As ready as I get, yeah.
As ready as we are. Okay, we are back with Tarot Beyond Tradition, and today we are doing Fandom decks, which I'm super excited about. Okay, we were just discussing. I did not get all my Fandom decks out because we'd be here for 4 hours. So
Which would be a glorious 4 hours, but perhaps a little much for all of us.
Right? Too much for the rest of the internet. So we should probably start with like, how do we define a fandom deck, right? Like, what's a fandom deck?
Yeah.
How do you define it?
Oh, I'm going first, am I?
Yeah, you go first. You're a guest on my channel. You go first.
I mean, it's why can I never give a direct answer? Because to me, fandom can be twofold. So, in the grander scheme of things, a fandom deck is simply of the one fandom, whether that's a game, whether it's a movie, whether it's a I'm trying to think of another examples now, but like TV show, and it's usually maybe this means a good fandom deck, but it's usually a good expression of whatever it is. The characters are meaningfully placed. You know, it's got lore in it, and it's got the artistic familiarity and all of the nostalgia that goes in with that, all neatly packaged. And then, as I was saying to you before we hit record, adjacent to that, I do feel like fandoms can infuse other decks where there's like sort of like a tabletop gaming system, but also familiar gaming sort of archetypes or aspects, whether that's gaming kits like the tools and the bags and the satchels,
the mechanics,
or whether it's the characters, like there's a rogue and there's an assassin or a tank. So I feel like there are some that are it's like it's not quite a fandom, but it feels like it supports it,
like fandom adjacent. Yeah. I think fandom deck is like kind of the obvious. It is the thing about the thing, right? It is a deck about the fandom. It is inspired by the fandom. But then, as we're going to also get into, there are decks that we as fans can attribute to a fandom, even if that's not the creator's intention. And that to me is still, I would consider a fandom deck. It's just not created as a fandom deck. I've then turned it into one.
Yeah.
And those are kind of like the two different definitions. Those are the two types of decks that I have here, which I actually think I have more decks that I attribute to fandoms that aren't fandoms than I do actual fandom decks, because I feel like fandom decks are a new thing.
I was literally going to say, do you think that's because it's slow? Because the first fandom deck that I got was ages ago, and then it was a really long time till I saw any others. And perhaps no, wrong publisher. Perhaps that publisher has got something to do with it that brings out a bunch of them.
Yeah, there's, well, I mean, like we all know, like Inside Editions, they have they have loads of like contracts or whatever it is with all kinds of intellectual property.
Yeah.
And so they're releasing, like their catalog is huge. The one thing I will say about them is when they started, they were making shitty fandom decks. And now they do seem to be taking the critique from the community and making better. And here's the thing with a fandom deck, I think. If you're going to do a fandom deck, you better do it right, because fans are very loyal to their fandoms. And if you don't portray it in just the right way, you're going to eliminate your fan base, basically, right? There's one particular deck that we're going to get into that does that for me. And anybody who's watching, if you can guess what it is before we even get there, like bonus points, because I've raved about it.
Comment below if you guess before Dawn tears into the deck.
But I think fandom decks are really interesting as something beyond like the traditional tarot, because you layer all that lore and the story and the characters or whatever is happening in the fandom into the tarot.
Yeah, it feels more challenging because it's preset. So then it's like you say, if you don't get it right, and it can be down to really simple things, but also a part of me recognizes, and not based on a deck I own, but based on a deck that I remember coming out, a TV. I won't say too much about it in case it's one of yours, but there's a TV show deck that came out and it really split the room. And people were like, why is this character in this card? It makes no sense for their character. And I was like, wow, this is it. It was an earlier Fandom deck, I feel, as well. And I just remember sort of watching it happen and being like, it must be really hard to appease everyone, but there are obvious lore things, there are obvious artistic things that make sense to put into them to at least hit, you know, your foundation, which the deck that you're going to moan about perhaps doesn't do.
I think that it's important to remember, though, when deck creators are creating fandom decks, and even when people are working with fandom decks, that's a layer that you can choose to add or not, because that deck that I'm gonna rant about here in a little bit, I'm sure, like, I still use it. I just found a different way to work with it because it doesn't work for me as a fandom deck. And I think that's one of the cool things about fandom decks is that you don't necessarily have to know the fandom to work with the deck. If it's a decently created deck, it still functions as a tarot, right? And you can still layer your traditional tarot meanings and archetypes into it. But then if you are familiar with the fandom, then you can layer in the story, the history, the lore, the whatever it is into that. And it just creates these really layered reading experiences, because now you're taking things from, you know, other areas of you know, your understanding. So like my game understanding is different than my tarot understanding. So merging those two together is different, right? That's an interesting kind of intersection of interest there. I think it is a new thing.
It definitely does feel new, but I feel like it adds a lot more lore. Like the story building, when they're done well, feels really solid. And I'm not saying that there aren't good story built decks otherwise, but I feel like they're fewer and harder to come by, because it must be an incredible commitment for someone to create a deck and then have all of the archetypes and meanings from whatever system they're sort of going with, and then the world that they want to visually create, to then try and like narrate a lore within it. I just feel like it doesn't always happen.
For sure.
So I think that's something I enjoy about them. And I was going to say, because I have a lot less fandom decks than you, one of the things that I still think also works about fandom decks is that one of the decks that I've got, which isn't a tarot, is from a fandom that I don't actually play the game for, but the lore and the cinematics and the artwork are so interesting to me, and my brother pushed it down my throat a lot. But there's something that we've watched together, so when every expansion comes out for this game, I don't own the game at all, but I watch the cinematics. Like sometimes they're long as well, and I've gone through the books that they settle for them. So I actually have all of this lore and knowledge about this world that's been built still, even though I don't play the game. So I feel like that's like a fun something that people can dive into with a fandom deck, even if they don't play the game. It could inspire them to like get a little taste for like essentially a fantasy world, right? Which is no different to a fantasy fiction.
Right. Yeah. It's picking up a fandom deck is no different than, say, picking up like the like a deck about, you know, talking forest creatures.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of suspending disbelief and stepping into a different world. And just as the same, if you take a owl and put it on the, I don't know, what's a good owl card?
Well, they're often on the High Priestess.
And they're often on the High Priestess. Okay. So you put the owl on the High Priestess, but then if you take a fandom character and you put that on the High Priestess instead, if you know that character, that then changes the whole tone of the High Priestess. There's an excellent example of that in the Diablo Tarot. I will see if I can find it while we're just sitting here chatting.
We should dive into the.
We should dive in.
Is this one of your favorites?
I think this is my absolute favorite fandom deck. And it is not for everybody. I understand that because the art is
stunning.
It's stunning, but it is definitely like kind of that grotesque look. Because that's the game. This is the game. Which is why I get mad about the other deck. By the same game people. Okay,
I was
no,
going to say, is that Blizzard?
It's Blizzard,
because it really looks like the Destiny artwork.
Yeah, this is Blizzard, and this was actually, unlike the other one, which I've pretty much given away now. This was actually created by Blizzard.
Yeah.
Which I wonder if that makes a difference.
Yeah, because this one has Blizzard's like copyright on it, but is not, obviously it's published by a publisher.
Yeah, that just means that probably the they've just licensed the use of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Whereas the Diablo looks really similar to the Destiny Oracle that I've got. Like, and the fact that they've got giant ass cards.
I bet that Oracle you have and this would go really well together. I should probably get it.
They would, and that one is on my wish list, even though I confess, but for anyone who's watching this, I was a big gamer nerd, and there is a game that I played a lot that we will talk about later, but my back and boring aches and pains and stuff don't let me game anymore, which is why I'm out the loop. So I never actually got to Diablo because I was too busy with something else. I have friends who played it, but when I watched several of your videos about it and saw the artwork and how well it was done and how much it makes sense, I put it on my wish list, even though I don't think I'd be able to shuffle it. I think I'd have to fan it and like do.
Yeah, it's huge. Like I can't really shuffle it either. I've totally missed the one card I was looking for somewhere in here. Okay, but this has. I can just tell y'all. Okay, so this has one of my favorite lovers card. Okay, because this from the lore, this is Lilith, who is the devil in this deck, right? She's one of the main villains in Diablo. And then this is oh my goodness, his name escapes me, but he's basically the archangel.
Yeah.
Who is the emperor. I did find his card.
Awesome.
So we have the emperor and the devil coming together in the lovers. And there's just something about that depiction and that idea of bringing those archetypal energies, like the lover has the devil card in it. And that's just something that I haven't seen in a lot of decks, and something that knowing that character, makes that have a whole different connotation to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's my favorite lovers card, and it's definitely my favorite card in this deck, but there's some fantastic cards in this deck. And one of the things that I think about this deck is that you do not have to know Diablo to work with this deck. And the guidebook is really nice. It's written by Barbara Moore, but it does not go into the lore. And I'm guessing that's so that it doesn't completely eliminate anybody else being able to use it. However, if you want to know Diablo lore and look at these characters and all that, like there's lots of resources online. This game's been around like a really long time. I've played all of them over all of the decades now at this point.
Do they have like a game wiki fan?
Yeah. Yeah. There's fan pages, there's books, like there's all kinds of stuff. But the thing with this one is like, it doesn't, like, you don't have to know the lore in order to work with it. It still functions beautifully as a traditional tarot. You can pull up any of these cards, like here's the Four of Wands, and it is very traditional in that sense. It's kind of pippish in some ways.
It's funny because it's like it's traditional enough, but it's not traditional in that it's not a clone either.
Right. So it's got all the main, like the hangman is like a dude upside down in the correct position, right? But this is a character though from the game. So like if you know that, same with like the chariot. So it's got all of the traditional things. And I think that's one of the things that makes a really good fandom deck is if you can take the fandom out of it and it still functions, then great.
Yeah.
It still needs to be a tarot. Like, my only complaint with this deck is its size, because it's obnoxious to work with.
This is giant, isn't it? And I feel
It's
like as beautiful as the artwork is, it could have definitely
it's
been a
like
bit smaller.
it's like a brick. I mean, the only reason I can think they didn't is because this artwork is really, really dark, and if it was smaller, like here is a traditional size tarot. It's a huge difference. It's like a postcard. When you put it up with a regular tarot, you realize just how big this thing is. Like, it's way beyond oracle size.
Yeah, that's pretty huge, actually.
But other than that, it's like, that's my only complaint with it. It's like one of those, like, I love it, even though it's big and obnoxious and hard to work with. But then, like, I kind of expect the Diablo deck would be kind of hard to work with, right?
It's interesting as well that it sort of has a traditional element to it, and then it's so non-traditional in that it's, like you say, fandom decks feel for the most part pretty new. But what I thought was sort of funny I'm not sure anyone would connect them in the way that I am, but just to play sort of devil's advocate, because obviously there's a large part of card reading and tarot that was a game in the beginning. So the fact that we've gone full circle and added
back to games
into the tarot
yeah,
feels like ironic, but in a nice way. It's like, it tickles me.
Yeah, it does me too. I think it's fantastic. I have lots of game-based decks. And then and that's a whole nother route that, I mean, maybe we get into it at a different time, but decks then that are actual game decks, and they're not meant to read as oracles, but you can do that with them.
I'm curious. I feel like I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway for everyone else. Do you use it in both traditional and non-traditional capacities?
I do. I tend to use the Diablo specifically, and this is in part due to its size.
Yeah.
I tend to use it like an oracle, which means I tend to actually pull more of the lore and the fandom association than I do the tarot.
Okay.
When I use it in a larger spread, if I'm going to use it with other decks, because I have like a whole collection of decks that I use it with: the Notoria, the Goetia, the Citadel, recently the True Sight Oracle. So I have kind of like this whole little family of decks that I work with together.
Yeah.
And when it's functioning in its family, it functions like an oracle in the center as like the anchor point for the whole reading. But occasionally I will do smaller readings, just usually no more than 3 cards because it's so big. And then I will use it as the tarot. So it's dual function for me.
I like that. But that again suggests that they've done something really well, at least for you, because if it's dual functioning, whereas the other one, not so much.
Not so much, yeah.
What I love is that people are going to be like, oh, but I really love it. Although I don't disagree with you at all. I just think it was easier for me to love it because, again, less fandom decks. So I think partially I've not been able to be as fussy about it because it's like I haven't had any, like I've latched onto it because it's one of my first usable ones, because my other fandom deck, which is my first fandom deck, is also unruly to hold and use.
Shall we just rip the Band-Aid off? So we talk about the one I talked about, my favorite fandom decks. We talk about my least favorite fandom.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, but I didn't get mine out because it's sitting over on the shelf. Also another Blizzard deck. Are we surprised? Okay, anybody who's been here a hot minute is not gonna be surprised.
Blizzard.
I will say, I do think it is a beautifully illustrated, it is a beautiful tarot deck, and I think it's gorgeous. I think the production value is fantastic. I do love the art. It's not a fucking World of Warcraft deck. And that is why. So anybody who's played the game, is there a pastel thing in that game? Is there a light, fluffy pastel thing in that game?
Unless they've added something since you and I haven't been able to play it. I was literally, funny enough, I was on Discord chatting with my brother before we started this, and I was saying we were going to do fandom decks, and he was like, "Oh, you do have another fandom deck, the one that I got you." I was like, "Oh yeah, it's an oracle, but I got it out anyway." And I was saying, like, the same thing I said to you. It really looks like it's cinematics, whereas this to me, it doesn't look like in game. It doesn't look like cinematics. It actually, there's a game called Cozy Grove, if anyone knows it. Like
it looks like that.
You know when the little memories pop up from the bears?
Yeah.
That's what they look like. It's that. So the characters are correct.
The characters are correct.
That she's very recognizable there, but just not in her art style whatsoever.
Yeah. And that's really the only disconnect for me, because they got the characters correct. There is lore, and there is, for anybody who knows World of Warcraft, that's a huge world, and it's got decades of lore. And so they did a really great job with all of that. I won't discount that at all. It's just the wrong art style, because that doesn't look anything like World of Warcraft.
No, and it is the art style. Well, I have one major gripe with it, but minor gripe with it rather. But it is minor, and I think again it's more to do with because the rights are bought out, I would imagine, by the publisher. They are still recognizable characters and classes and stuff in the minors, but it's only in the majors that we get the characters identified, and they're very specifically discussed, even if it's really briefly, right?
Yeah.
And it just feels like a missed opportunity to me to have not just followed through. And even if it was like a random human, were they called Taurians? Like whatever, like night elf. Even if it's a random one, just maybe say a little bit about where, you know, what part of the area they're in, or what part of the lore. Just a little tidbit, like
a little bit, yeah.
I feel like would fully fledge out this deck in a way that would be really enjoyable. Because if anyone's curious, before I fully unleash anything else Dawn's got to say about it, because it's far more fun than what I have. I stopped playing World of Warcraft because of my pains, and it was genuinely like, if anyone's ever been a gaming nerd and had to come away from something not by choice, it's not fun. And so for a very long time I have missed this game, because you just can't play anything like this on the Switch. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
And so I think I wanted to chew on like as much lore and as much character and as much nostalgia as possible. And it's really hard to get the full effect of the nostalgia when, one, it doesn't look anything like it. This feels a little bit more.
That feels a little closer, yeah.
But and also and an art style I enjoy. Like I like the color.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's just
not World
of Warcraft, yeah.
And then it's got just those missing additions. And again, the book is good. Like it's decent, it's fair. I think again, it's one of those ones where, would you say it's quite traditional in terms of readability still? Like I feel it is. Like the 8 of Wands looks the same.
It looks I think it straddles the line of a clone, in the sense of like it's close enough, but it's like you've just taken World of Warcraft characters and stuck them in the RWS.
Yeah, because like
that's very traditional.
And this one feels again as traditional as you're going to get with a panda instead of a human.
Yeah. Which I mean is great, and I think that's one of those things that makes it like still usable as a tarot deck. Like it functions as a tarot deck, and that its ability to function as a tarot deck is not at all my gripe with it, and it's not even the way it look like. I do think it's beautiful. I use it as like a fantasy self-care deck. That's how I use it, but I completely discount any connection to World of Warcraft, because my brain, after living in that game for decades, cannot reconcile this pretty soft pink pastel-y world with the world that I lived in day in and day out. Like, I mean, It like ridiculous, like where you're doing like, raids every weekend and you're, grinding all
Oh,
week
it's
long
like
and
an extension of life, isn't it? Like
right,
a
yeah.
fantasy extension. You sit down and you log into it, and you're with the people you usually talk
Mhm.
to, and you're
Yeah,
the character that you usually are, and
you're running with it is legitimately living a whole nother life. Like,
yeah.
it doesn't have to be that, but for a lot of people, games like World of Warcraft tend to do that because it is, and for anybody who doesn't know, it is a game that you play online with other people. So, like, I create a character, my husband creates a character, our friends create a character, and, like, we all go together, and we had friends from all over the world, and,
And you
you meet
generally live chat as
people.
well.
You live chat. Yeah, this was back in the days before
TeamSpeak?
Discord. There was we used Vent a lot,
Uh,
back in the day, but it's you create these characters and you exist in these worlds, and games like World of Warcraft that have been around for, decades now, that
mm,
there's this is when I'm talking about fandom stuff, there's such an energy that is carried with that
yeah.
if you don't honor it, then you're in a sense doing a disservice to the fandom. Now, I know lots of people who played and or did play World of Warcraft who have no problem with that deck and they think I'm insane. But I feel like when I'm working with a deck visually, if the visuals do not represent the world, I would rather it be a complete miss as a tarot deck and have
Mm,
the visuals be correct, because then at least I would be using it as a fandom deck, right? I would be
yeah,
able to work with it in that way, because otherwise I might as well just use an RWS, right?
true.
If I can't make a connection to the fandom, then there's no
Mm,
point in me using a fandom deck.
yeah.
So that's my biggest gripe with it, is because it doesn't function as a fandom deck. And I get, like, it's a me thing. I get it. It's totally a me thing.
No,
But because I
I
also
do
have
get
so many.
yeah. Like, when you've described it like that, that actually you could be using a Rider-Waite Smith. And again, I think because you play a lot of other online games where they're like quite immersive, so
Mhm.
you've got like BG3 and stuff like that now, where I
Mhm.
don't, like I said,
Mhm.
I think I want to acknowledge that for me, I'm grasping at what I can get, which is a very different energy
Right.
than
Absolutely.
just being like elated with it.
Yeah.
So it's like every time I just played night elves all the time, because every time I tried saying else, I just wanted to go back to them. I think if I
I
could be one,
mean,
I
they
would.
were great. Yeah.
So, but like every time I see one of the characters, especially that I know, it
Mhm.
it does something for that nostalgic
Mhm.
part of me. But I agree, I would much rather one that looked like World of Warcraft, that, and I
Mhm.
hadn't thought about it, but that didn't maybe hit the tarot stuff so much. That would
Yeah.
be delightful. I mean, they didn't put my favorite dragon in it anyway, so
Yeah.
I was already a little bit like, oh, that
Mhm.
cinematic absolutely hit me in all of the
Mhm.
feels. Is it Ysara?
Yeah, I
How
think
you
so.
pronounce her name? Yeah.
Mhm.
When she goes from being alive to being a spirit, and she moves out of her
Mhm.
dragon body, and I sobbed
Mhm.
very real tears through that
Yeah.
performance. I don't know about you, and I'll be really curious, but I feel passionate in not a stronger way about fandom per se, but there is something perhaps a little bit more emotive heartstring attached. Like when people do things with tarot in general that don't fit for me, I'm like, yeah, like just not for me. But when someone doesn't hit your fandom right, I think
Mhm.
there's like a real different hit.
It's a different kind of energy. Like,
Mm,
I read the saying that, like, fandom is family. So a lot of people treat their fandoms like you would family, right?
yeah,
These are characters, especially if it's something that you've been engaged with for a really long time. Like, there are people, like Star Wars is a really good example of this. I know some people who, like,
yeah, that's
they
true.
grew up with Star Wars. Like, I mean, I grew up with Star Wars too, but like they have stayed connected to that fandom. And these are people that are 40, 50 years old, right? So 40, 50 years
Of
they've
Star Wars.
of Star Wars, of being in this fandom, of even when it wasn't popular, during the time. It's like D&D, right? D&D is just now gaining popularity. If you
Yeah,
played D&D in the 80s, you were a
we
huge
got picked
freaking
on.
nerd. Yeah, you got picked on, you got bullied. It's interesting because if you take something like fandom where you have like true fans or people who have been connected to this and they've, you know, either grown up with it or they've just developed a relationship with it. I mean, like BG3 is an excellent example. Like we've only been playing that game for a year, but the amount of shit Lisa and I have gone through in that game, like that's family now, right? Because we have played so many different versions of that and told our own stories in it and created this whole world within it that we exist in. And that's now family, even though it's only been a year. But also World of Warcraft is family because I've been playing that since it came out, like since launch day we played.
Yeah.
And granted, we haven't played in the last like year or year and a half or whatever. We ebb and flow because it does get, after you've been playing it for a few decades, it gets a little monotonous after a while because you literally are just doing the same thing over and over again, even with all the expansions. But that's something that, you know, like we lived and breathed. And not only me, like, you know, my husband, my kids, our friends, like it was a legitimate like community that we built. And this was back in the day when we had actual LAN parties when people would drag their desktop computers all the way over to our house.
Yeah.
And we'd set up this huge gaming thing in the kitchen and we gamed all day long. The kids ran around and played. They came in and played with us. They, you know, we had food. It was like an all day affair. And so you get all of that wrapped up into that. Like my kids will talk about some of their favorite memories are LAN party days.
Yeah.
Because it was a party.
Into a gaming, like I'm sure there are kids out there that grow up in families that then aren't into that and whatever. But I like, yeah, my dad had, and it wasn't really my gaming genre actually, but my dad would have things like that, and he just basically had computers set up for his mates, so they didn't even have to bring their own.
Nice, that's even better.
They would just hunt for like spare computer parts at like charity shops and other things and slowly build them, and the three of them would like come around and play in the loft, and I would just be tuned in, like just watching them shoot people in Unreal Tournament or whatever it was. It's like you kind of get initiated as a gamer by hook or by crook, unless you really loathe it or the person that's in, you know, initiated you. Like I remember when my dad got his first computer, when I got my first one, when he got his first PlayStation 1, like it's they're quite, for gamers, it's so pivotal. And because I think a lot of us traverse, I know not all fandoms are related to technology like that, but a lot of the gaming ones are. And we were all around at pivotal points when it went from that not existing in our life and things being board games to then it moving into technology and looking more real and feeling more real and being more immersive. And like you say, the things that you and Lisa share in that game, the things that you and your husband and your friends and stuff, they're like, I know for me, like I used to play with a couple of my old mates and old colleagues and stuff like that, and we had a guild, and it's like it's extensions of your relationship with them also. So they're like hours of memories of just talking either nonsense or raiding, you know.
It creates this whole separate world that you're like existing in, and whether it's a game or whether it's something like, you know, Star Wars is a great example where you're just like, there's one particular person that works with my husband that I'm thinking of, that he, like, since a kid, right, he's collected, he's now like in his mid 40s, I think, and since he was a kid, like he's collected all of these Star Wars things, and he as a grown adult saves up his money so he can go to the Star Wars stuff at Disneyland or wherever it is, and things like that. It's such a part of like his world and his language. There, I mean, now there's video games about it, but that it didn't start in a video game. That started more in a movie, I guess. Really, it's movie, TV shows now, and 900 TV shows and games and everything else. But when you go into a space like that and you're pulling something into the tarot like that, like you can't half-ass it, because these are places that people have invested parts of their self in. And I mean, not everybody is a fan to that level. Like I'm not a fan to that level about a lot of things, right? I have a lot of things that I like, but I wouldn't like consider myself like a fandom of.
Mm.
There's a couple of decks that I have just because they're like fandom decks, but I'm not like a huge like I have the supernatural deck. It's a terrible deck. But I have it because I watched the show and I enjoyed it. So now I have the deck. Like
Yeah.
same with like I have the Beetlejuice deck. I mean, that's great. I love the show. I can't remember. It's a lot of those Inside Edition ones. I have them just to have
Yeah.
them. I don't use them. They're collectibles basically.
I get it, because it's like what I do with the animal decks, and I think I'm I'm a tiny bit, ironically, after what we've said about the World of Warcraft, but I'm a tiny bit fussier currently. But I think again there was like less fandoms that pulled me in the first place, because I did actually have the Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh yeah, I forgot that one too.
Yeah, and the artwork actually for me is delightful, and a part of me feels sort of, I guess, like a false sense of like guilt, because my dad chose it for me, and he tried to find out without letting me know like if I had it or not, but it didn't. Again, interestingly enough, that one does do the world a lot better, but it's incoherence between Pip-ish to much more scenic, but how it's sometimes suit variant as well. It just and so I parted with it in the end.
Yeah, I feel like that is one that like that particular publisher was trying to find their way.
Yeah.
With these, and like, and that's fine. It takes a while. Fandom decks are a new thing. So as a publisher, there's not really a precedence for how to approach fandom decks. I think they've since learned that, you know, they need to hit certain things, and it's a big deal. And people like me will get real pissy and very vocal about it when you miss the mark. It's like the World of Warcraft. I have it. It's sitting on my shelf. It's right back there somewhere on that shelf right there. Because I do use it. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Because I do use it. I use it as it is a beautiful, fluffy self-care fantasy deck. Which I didn't have.
Fluffy, doesn't it?
It's fluffy. There's nothing fluffy about World of Warcraft. Like, and I think I've said this before. When you get your body ganked by a 12-year-old for 2 hours, there's nothing fluffy about that experience.
No, it is. It's very soft, because I'm like finding artwork that should be like, I guess, a little bit. I feel like if that was all of the dark purples and blacks and rich greens and stuff, the dragons would fucking hit differently.
Yeah, it's very soft and fluffy. I feel like it almost nice washes World of Warcraft. And as a fan, it's that emotional resonance for me that so misses the mark that I can't even with that as a World of Warcraft deck. It's not.
Actually, there's a card in here, and I'm like, if I was going to pick a card to describe the deck, it would be this one, because that's what I feel like it's done to the rest of the deck.
Yeah. La. This is a fan. It's not a game about just, you know, completely annihilating whole worlds, and then you have like the Alliance and the Horde, and they hate each other, and you can't even speak to each other, and like, where is there anything nice in that? I mean, the amount of times we've gone into like, you know, if we were playing Alliance, just you run into a Horde camp and just annihilate it because they're Horde.
Yeah, it's basically a revenge classic the whole way through. Yeah. Like, and also, can I say, where the hell is our Leroy Jenkins moment?
Right, where is Leroy Jenkins? Oh my goodness, that should be in there, because that was a classic moment. Leroy Jenkins. And if you know, you know, and leave a comment below and let us know if you know, you know, because then like we need to be friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. It so misses the mark. Okay, I'm going to show you a deck that is my World of Warcraft deck.
Okay. So this is moving into your decks, which
we're bouncing around.
Yeah, where you've assigned them to a fandom.
I've assigned, yes. And part of that is because when I got this deck, I don't think there were really fandom decks, because I got it a long time ago. So this is the Modern Spellcasters. I'm just going to do one card at a time. And to me, this is World of Warcraft. It functions. Okay, well, that's a weird card, but let me see what I've got going on here. This is what World of Warcraft looks like.
Yeah, look at the undead.
It's dark, it's gritty. I mean, this could be one of the zombie. Oh, why is my face the people from the I was gonna say Underdark, that's D&D.
Yeah, just undead is
The
the only word in my
the
brain.
undead. The hell's the name of their main city? It's escaping me now. But like this just looks like World of Warcraft to me. And
The
when I
colours
got
are a hell of a lot closer.
it's the colors are closer and you do have this fantasy vibe. There's a bit of a druidic influence to this deck in particular.
Yeah, you can see it.
But there's a bit of that in World of
Well, some of
Warcraft
my
too.
favourite regions, like I still call things, and this goes back to that, like being in love with it. I still call things Shadowglen, like
Yeah.
from being a
There's
night elf. Like I still name so many things that.
Yeah.
So arguably in the night elf area and the is it Toria? No,
the I don't know, I didn't play
no,
them
the
very
drain,
often.
the drain, the drain.
The
The
Draenei were the big purpley blue people, right? The
me,
horns. They're kind of like
bit,
tieflings.
yeah, they felt a little bit. Some of their starting areas also feel a little bit druidic to me, but it depends.
Like this is the Lich King, right?
Yes,
The Lich King.
It's like the Lich King meets Santa,
right? Like they're just and part of it is I guess because I had this before fandom decks were really bad. Like I've had this deck a really long time. And the more I used it, the more I started to kind of associate that idea of, I'm like, this really looks like World of Warcraft. And I think this was the first deck that I actually started exploring the idea of integrating fandom into my readings. Because I was like, well, this kind of looks like that world. And at the time I got this, we weren't actually playing World of Warcraft. And we were going through our usual, should we play again? Like we kind of miss it. Maybe we should play again. It's such a time suck, but like you lose months in that game.
Yeah.
And so I kind of started exploring that idea of, well, could I just like have that World of Warcraft experience in my deck? So when I work with that deck, I work with it in a way, I should probably do a video on it, but I work with it in a way like I'm doing a quest. So you know how you go to you go find your little quest giver and you get your quest and whatever it is, you're going to escort something or collect something or kill something, right? It's one of those three things basically. Escort quests are the fucking worst because they walk so slow. I hate escort quests.
Yeah, on purpose to get attacked by literally everything.
Everybody. Yeah. So that was the first deck for me because I didn't have any fandom decks at that time. And I don't think there were that many even like out and available.
No, they would have been very indie. And when I say indie, I feel like also not indie US, UK, like some of the main, I at least for me, the first fandom decks I knew of were, can't remember if it was in Thailand or a Korean artist, but like sort of out there, thereabouts were the first ones I saw anyway.
Yeah. Well, there is the whole thing about like you have to be careful of intellectual property.
Yeah.
Don't ever rip off Disney. They're really, really bad about it. Like,
oh my goodness, no! I think
if it's owned by Disney, just stay away. Yeah, because they're real special about their IP.
I think that if anyone wants to go on to either DeviantArt or onto Reddit, it's really easy and quick to find out who is really nasty and on it about that stuff, and also where it's safe and where it's not. Because whilst I have seen Nintendo things done, I know that Nintendo are on it for findings. But even when their creators share and uplift their products and review them, if there's too much of the music in there, it gets taken down.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there's a couple of Nintendo decks I've seen go around that I'm like, it's just a matter of time before they find you, because they don't, and rightly so. I mean, I get like fandom thing. There's a difference that when you're making something as a fan just to make it and just to share it versus I'm going to make it and sell it for a profit. That's the big difference. It's not necessarily that these companies or whoever originally created the IP has a problem with fandom stuff. Just most of them don't like people taking their own thing and then profiting off of it. Same reason like deck creators in our world, like they don't like it when their shit gets pirated. Some fandom deck is essentially pirating, because if you don't own the intellectual property to do it, that is just, it is still breaking the law in a sense, right?
And it's dicey trying to draw lines between it, although arguably you could grab one franchise and they probably profit so much it wouldn't make a difference to them. But also there's a lot of things out there that were at least originally small, or have like Cozy Grove, for example. There isn't a Cozy Grove deck as I know anyway, but you know, they're a little indie like creation. So if someone was to profit off of that, you're really taking money directly out of someone's pocket in particular. And so it's a bit like who gets to draw those lines. I mean, for me, still a huge company is very different, but also they're gonna come for you, so it's also not worth it.
I mean, it's kind of one of those shitty things to have to even mention, but I think when you talk about fandom decks, I think it is important, because I know there's a lot of fandom decks out there made by fans, and like there's a line, right? And I think there's a difference between let me bring up a deck. Because this one, there's a difference between somebody who takes actual intellectual property and creates a duplicate of it. Right. Versus something like this. This is the tabletop tarot. So this has a lot of references. Let me see if I can find one in particular. Okay, this totally from Critical Role. However, it's not an exact duplicate, and there's no mention of it being from Critical Role.
Different
and only if you know Critical Role will you even catch that reference. And so there's a difference between decks like this, which is another one of my favorite fandom decks, this tabletop tarot. There's a lot of fan stuff. I'll just show some of the cards. There's a lot of fan stuff in this. It's also very much a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, so you can use it without, I hate that word, but it is what it is, right? This is the star. There's no denying that this is the star.
That's more Rider-Waite-Smith than the...
This is death. There's no denying that's death, right? And so it functions completely as a tarot, but something like this is not, it's not a one-for-one thing, because some of the, this one cracks me up, the little goblin for the emperor. It's not intending to be a Critical Role deck, and there's other fandoms in here. I'm just using that one as an example. It's inspired by, right? So this creator has taken those ideas and created her own vision with it, which in my opinion is very similar to, like, I take the idea of the Empress and I recreate her in my own way, right? You're taking just kind of that archetype and that energy of it and creating that. That's a very different thing. This is more, I think, you would be hard pressed for any one like IP to come after. Although, like, if you know Critical Role, like that dude is so recognizable, but like cool. But like, I love it because it's not actually intended to be that, right? It's not intended to be a Critical Role deck. It's called the Tabletop Tarot. It just takes inspiration from all kinds of gaming stuff, and there's other stuff beyond Critical Role. Those are just real obvious in there if you know the world. And that, I think, is a good example of like an inspired by fandom deck. It's not billed as a Critical Role deck. It's not even really billed as a fandom deck. It's billed, based off of D&D.
Yeah, which is a more respectable route to go as well.
Yeah.
Should I show my less respectable?
Yeah, do it. Show your actual fandom one.
So this is the first fandom deck I ever got. And actually, I did speak to a few people about it way later, because what I would say as well is I hadn't been making art in the traditional way for a very long time by that point. So I used to draw a lot of art and stuff as well. And I was newer returning to the tarot scene as well. So the idea of the copyright and the stuff that we're talking about now, not really present in my sphere of awareness at all. And also when I was talking to people, despite to me it looking very much like it, a lot of other people have told me they feel like you can tell it's not the official art.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this person has been making Pokemon decks for, I think mine was like the most recent generation. I think they had like a couple before that. This is just, sadly, the box came like dinged, and as you can see, I've touched my face, so now it's got makeup on it. And also like
Huge.
yeah. Not as wide as the Diablo, but in terms of getting non-traditional, I will show the back after. This hits a lot of categories at once. So there it says Pokebox, which there isn't really a title for the deck. It's a Pokemon deck and it's called Pokebox, or the person is. I can't work it out. And so my dad ordered me this when I stumbled across it years ago for a birthday. And the cards, have I got a traditional size card? No, of course not. No. Oh, World of Warcraft.
Well, yeah, World of Warcraft. It's fairly traditional size, yeah.
But they're very tall, and the thickness of them is like 2 to 3 times. It's made out of a plastic.
Oh, interesting.
It's really thick. It comes with this blank card that you can do something with. And you know, when you think it's a nice idea, but what
are you
going
to
do with it?
You're not drawing on it, so
this is the whole entire. Look how thick this deck is.
That's chunky. Oh my goodness.
So it's very. Well, it's pretty Rider-Waite Smith. The problem is it doesn't come with a guidebook, so you have to really know your Pokemon as well. And it's not necessarily like, it's an older one, so it's not got all the generations in. But to me, I think the artwork looks a little bit more on the nose.
I mean, it looks pretty similar.
People were like, oh no, we can tell straight away that it's not the Pokemon art. And I was like, really? Because I've seen a lot of, you know, me and Pokemon, we've had a long ride. Me and Pokemon go back way further than me and World of Warcraft. I didn't actually get introduced to World of Warcraft until I was about 19. So people had been playing, like the first expansion had already come out, I believe, when I got introduced to it. Whereas Pokemon, I've been literally there from conception. So,
I mean, it could be that maybe the characters are just slightly not. That looks a lot like him, though. But I was just gonna say maybe the characters they're slightly off from the original. But oh nope, nope, not at all.
No, this is Mew, if ever there was a Mew.
Yeah, that's absolutely Mew. That blows that theory out of the water.
So, what I will say, although it's not my decision to make other than for anyone else other than myself, is that on hindsight, having owned it many more years and been able to bring more of a discerning eye to it, Pokemon make an absolute fortune. It's still against the law, and I 100% would not do it nor recommend it. But I don't feel a level of guilt where I would be like, I must get rid of this now, because no, not at all. And that Raichu 9 of Cups is everything.
Yeah. That's adorable.
There's a little bit more clothes on them, but yeah, honestly, as you could see, it just and favorite card ever. But it does make my happy little Pokemon heart swell.
Aww.
But also, I feel like sometimes there is a little bit of extra lore infused in it than others. Like this one, I can't work out if that's Honchcrow's butt or someone else's, but they're flying away. It's more to do with the fact that they're a bird. Right. But this, Meowth is my favourite Pokemon of all time. Meowth being sort of like drawn between all of the things in the cups, and Meowth's like origin story of being left and then finding Team Rocket, and sort of how he came to be, about like how he is, and his like moves like Payday and stuff. So all of the gold and the riches and the so many options. It feels like this to me feels like the person knows Pokemon.
Yeah.
They have to do the artwork, right?
Yeah.
So it's I have to say it's probably my naughtiest deck, but it's also one of my oldest. And the only reason that I don't use it more is because it's just
Physically too big. Yeah.
It's just physically absolutely taxing. It's also one of those ones where I am mindful that it's like I would be really surprised if Pokemon didn't know it existed, to be fair. My experience of them is they're not as uppity about fan artwork, because I've seen a lot of like Pokemon stickers, Pokemon.
Oh yeah. There's tons of Pokemon stuff out in the world.
Like on Etsy, people do their own stuff at all the Comic-Cons. Like Pokemon just don't seem to come after people providing they're like a certain size. Obviously they do sell their license to bigger companies to put on clothes and stuff like Oodies. I think they seem to turn a bit of a friendly eye to the fan stuff in my experience, so I don't feel as bad about it, but also I don't think people can get it anymore, and when I show it they're like, nah. And I also don't want to encourage people to buy it without taking into consideration all of the other things, but it's funny because before I would have thought about all of that, as I say, just finding a fandom deck after growing up around tarot and it being sort of only a few things and then coming back to it at a later date and being like, there's a what deck? Like there's a Pokemon deck.
Yeah.
But I do still have mixed feelings about it now, having brought a more discerning eye to it than I had before. It should be something that we think about. It should be something that we discuss. And much better that we're not potentially either screwing over some small creator or screwing over ourselves trying to take on some big giant business anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And then obviously the people who do create them can take the wrath of when we're not happy with them. Because it does happen. Like actually there's a few decks that I didn't get, not because I don't think they're badly done, but again, like an artwork one for me, just to balance out the poor World of Warcraft that we both still own and love.
We still, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But it's not World of Warcraft artwork.
It's not World of Warcraft.
But to me, I can't believe more people didn't say that about the Buffy deck, because I freaking love Buffy. And even when I look at the comics, I mean, I wasn't into the comics so much, but it doesn't, the very pink and purple aesthetic of it doesn't give me Buffy vampire vibes at all. Like
it gives me original Buffy, the movie from the 80s.
Yeah, see, because I guess I'm not a fan of the movie, which is part of the problem.
But it wasn't based on the movie. It was based on the TV show. So that theory goes out the window. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That was very pink because it was the 80s.
Yeah. And it looks, actually, it does. It looks very 80s, doesn't it? And there's just something, it's just so poppy in colour. And I'm like, sometimes I have to turn my contrast up on my TV and like my brightness when I'm watching Buffy, because they're all just so dark.
It's so dark, yeah.
Don't get me wrong, she wears some cute girl shit and does the whole like preppy, but hello, like spoilers, but it's
vampires,
like vampires,
yeah,
willow, like where's the grungy, edgy like visual? So that for me has always sat on one of those. I still think from what I've seen of it, it looks really well done, fun, but visually, firstly, it doesn't remind me of the show, and then secondly, I think it jumps into that, at least the World of Warcraft, it's an aesthetic I can get on board with. The Buffy one is probably going to be a lot harder for me to like feel drawn to artwork wise. So again, it's like it's a fandom miss for me based on that.
It's a miss for me in that sense too. Like it's not a deck that I would, if you take the Buffy out of it, it's not a deck that I would use.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit my aesthetic, my collection very well or any of that. And so, but as a Buffy deck, it didn't quite hit the mark for me either. So like I've watched a lot of walkthroughs on it. I don't own it. And it's for that reason, because I'm not that attached to Buffy that I feel like I need the deck.
No.
If that makes sense. Like, I love the show. Like, I've watched it many times. I've seen the movie many, many times, but it's just not one that I feel like personally connected to in that way.
Which is funny because I do, but still have the same, same reservations. I looked at it and then I got a chance to get it in person after I'd had it in hands, and I still didn't buy it. And I thought, it's just going to sit there. It's just going to sit there.
It's just going to sit there. Yeah. That is, I mean, I do have some decks that just sit there, but like, I'll be honest, the majority of my decks that just sit there, and I have them just because they're fandom decks, they're in my gaming room. So
yeah, and I would imagine the artwork is then more like, there's something to be said, I feel. So I'm assuming maybe for you, I still couldn't buy as much artwork as I own in tarot. Like, there's not, I appreciate I have nothing on the wall yet, but when I do get stuff on the wall, like, there's only so much room on a wall. There's only so much money. Like, actually buying big pieces of artwork is expensive, whether you're supporting someone who does fandom stuff or buying the official. And it's like, actually being able to have 78, or even if it's an oracle, like however many bits of the artwork is pretty cool. And like, even just putting a couple of characters out on like altar stands or whatever, like, there's something about owning the art in the same way that I buy, like, I've got a labyrinth and a dark crystal, like making the movie book, and then it's got all of the big artwork in it, and the how they created and conceptualized them. Like, to me, owning a fandom deck, if I'm just going to own it, would then slot into that category. Like, I would get it out, look at it, enjoy it, do an R about the art or the photography.
Then the art definitely needs to match the visuals. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I think for both of us, like, if we didn't, I know I use mine and have maybe a bit more World of Warcraft nostalgia out of desperation but we still both use our World of Warcraft decks for some type of readings, and they perhaps wouldn't have made it if that wasn't the case.
It's my self-care fantasy deck, which I don't have. Like, I love existing in fantasy world, clearly. Like, that's my jam. If I could be in fantasy world, I'm happiest there.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a deck that really hit that mark for me to bring that fantasy world into the idea of fluffy self-care, positive, all of that. And so I was actually thrilled that it hit that mark. It's just not World of Warcraft, and that's fine. Like, I just had to disconnect that whole idea that it is the world. I don't even call it World of Warcraft. It's my fantasy self-care deck.
I love that you revoked the name.
I revoked the name. You cannot have it because you failed to meet the standards. I just would love to know what the thinking was behind that. I mean, I will get off the World of Warcraft thing, but I would just love to know what the thinking was behind the pretty pastel, fluffy. Have you played the game? Have you played the game? Because I don't think you've played the game.
Oh, that's another thing I was going to say, though, really quickly as well, off of the bat of that. It does occasionally feel like people don't know the fandom when the decks come out. And that's an issue.
Yeah.
You can't, maybe you can be the artist if someone who intimately knows the fandom completely directs you other than your art style. Like, but they would actually have to direct what you put on each card, how you shape the scene, like, so much of it. And I think that you can smell it a mile off. Like, if you're part of a fandom, even but at all, you can look at a deck and be like, that person wanted to cash in on perhaps just liking it a little bit or whatever it is, because I've seen quite a few fandom decks like that as well. And they're never officially licensed, and they are usually like popular fandoms, and even the tarot isn't done well sometimes either. So it's a bit like,
you're just trying to make a buck at that point.
So what do you have, any other favorites or ones that, I'm curious what other ones you've associated with other games as well?
Okay, I have a couple of them here. I didn't grab them all because, like, I have so many of them. Okay, so my Heavenly Blooms tarot deck. So this one.
Oh, that's beautiful. They look like a World of Warcraft character.
This is my Final Fantasy deck.
Oh, nice.
Because to me, this
I can see.
this beautiful, it's super aesthetic. It's just got like they're long and thin, and there's just this, it's got the Final Fantasy vibe to it. Final Fantasy is another game franchise that I've played since it's come out.
Okay.
You know, we've played them all. I played them all with my husband, and every time I get this deck out, this is my Final Fantasy deck. It just allows
it's
me to
very
step.
like.
It just, these characters could step into that world.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe that's how I kind of define when a fantasy or when a deck is going to step into a fandom for me. If I can take the characters that are in the card and step them into that world, then that's how I make that association with these ones. And this makes me think of that world. So this is absolutely my
It looks
Final
very
Fantasy.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I love it. There is like this deck actually has like, it functions great as a tarot because obviously it's not meant to be a fandom deck, and I'm not even sure what the people who made it would think of me saying it's a Final Fantasy deck. But there are like also clans within this deck, within the deck's core structure. Each court or each suit is its own clan, and then the courts are the courts of that clan, right? So it's also got that kind of an energy to it, which I think helps lean into the whole idea of it being a Final Fantasy deck for me.
It sort of looks like it's got a bit of like an ethereal vibe to it.
It just has that kind of energy that comes through, particularly the art style in Final Fantasy. And then this one I pulled out. So this is the Eldritch Overload.
Oh, pretty.
This one's a little bit of a mixture for me now, but this is originally my Arcane deck. So here's the back.
Matches your top.
Well, yes, because that's Jinx.
There we go.
I'm wearing my Arcane shirt.
Yeah, I did not know that, by the way. I don't know Arcane, so.
Okay, it's a game first and foremost, which I don't play because I don't really play those kind of games. I've watched my kids play a lot of it, but also there's a cartoon, and if you have not watched it, I highly recommend it. It's Lisa and I have bawled, ugly crying on the plane was what we did because it's so good.
I will make a note of it in my phone now.
This deck is technically, I think they call it a cyberpunk D&D.
Oh, nice.
Like a fantasy cyberpunk tarot. So this deck became like this really interesting hybrid because the world it exists in, the art style looks like Arcane. But the characters, that's like a little orc family. The characters are D&D. And so, but also it's got this kind of cyberpunky thing. So it's this really weird blend of things. And generally, I hate blingy ass shit like this on my cards. I find it really distracting, but it works in this deck. And so this one, like this is full on Arcane to me. And
it reminds me a little bit, but not the colors, but some of the world that looks more cyberpunky and human, less the other characters of Blade Runner.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of that to it.
I know that's like. People might watch this and actually not know what that movie is because it's pretty old.
It's pretty old. But like this one, I'm pretty sure that's a Mind Flayer, which is a D&D thing. But it's the world. But then you've got like this is like a robot police thing going on.
Yeah.
And it feels like, because Arcane is a little bit that. It's like a really kind of weird cyberpunky, but also kind of fantasy blend because like there's magic and stuff like that. And like this one's on a motorcycle.
I love the helmet.
But then you've got like this giant orc thing, right? And so this is my Arcane deck, and it's kind of funny because then when Lisa and I have a particular game that we play where I am playing Jinx, so my character is based off this character right here.
Yeah.
And we were using tarot at the time for it, and so we both had a deck, and so this became my Jinx deck. So now I've got multiple layers in this because I've got the cyberpunk thing, there's the Arcane thing, there's the Jinx thing. There's a card in here that legit looks exactly like Lisa's character that she plays in that game.
Oh, that's cool.
The shit looks just like her. So now we call it the Oblivia card, and I'm pretty sure it's the devil, which is hilarious. But anyway, it's now because I've layered all these fandoms into this deck. Like, it
Yeah.
kind of started out as a little bit of a fandom deck, similar to the tabletop tarot, where it's just kind of got D&D influence to it, but it's also got cyberpunk influence to it. And then I've layered it with arcane, and then I layered it with BG3, right? So it's got all of that just mixed in there, which will make no sense to anybody but me. So it makes it a very personal thing too, which is kind of cool.
I like that. So how many decks do you think you've got then, because like ballpark, that you've associated with games that weren't originally the games?
Probably over a dozen. I think I did a video maybe a year or two about it.
I've
I
probably seen it and just
decks that make my gamer heart happy or something like that. I probably need to do an update because I've added a lot since then. But I
when you have
feel like,
dice associated to some of them as well, right?
and yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Some of them have their very own sets of dice, like this one here. This is actually a prototype, but this is the Endless Tarot.
Yeah, because
So
you've got
it's
two, right? One for Morrigan.
Yeah, I ordered the second one because this was my prototype. So this one's it's not out yet, but I backed the other one on Kickstarter because it is also my Morgan deck, but this is also my BG3 deck.
That was it. And you wanted one for each and also the proper version. Yeah.
I want one for me and one for the Morgan because she claimed this deck too. And now we fight over it. And the really weird thing, again, this is where you come to like personal associations with decks, because this is not a fandom deck. And I've talked to the creator of this deck because there is a card in here that made it a fandom deck for me. And I'm going to cover it up because YouTube is being ridiculous. But if you can guess what's going on beneath my finger, right in the Lover's card, there are two boys in it, and one has dark hair and one has white hair. And every time I see this, I'm like, this is the Bloodweave card. So Bloodweave is a ship, and if you don't know fandom terms, that is a pairing of two characters. So there is a ship called Bloodweave, which is Astarion and Gale, right? And that's like one of my favorite ones. And as soon as that card hit my table, and I even messaged Eric, I'm like, is that a Bloodweave card? I have to know. Like, I have to know. He's like, no, but it's a happy coincidence, isn't it? I was like, yes, it is.
You're like, yeah.
So it was that one card that I was like, okay, so now I made that association to that one card, which now then carried the whole association over into the whole thing. So even though this one in particular doesn't actually look like Baldur's Gate 3, like if anything, the Modern Spellcasters looks more like it, because again, similar to World of Warcraft, it's, like a D&D based world. So it's fantasy, it's dark and gritty, and apparently it's playtime behind me. But and that's an example of, because I've personally made the connection to that. So it wasn't forced on me. So the fact that the art style doesn't necessarily represent the actual fandom doesn't matter in that case, because I made the association. Whereas like the World of Warcraft deck, they told me that's supposed to be a World of Warcraft deck, right? So right on the box. And I'm like, I don't think you're right about that.
I think you must be confused.
I think you've got me confused with someone else, because that is not a World of Warcraft deck. You and me need to sit down and have a chat. Let me take you through the world there. Let's go visit Azeroth, and I'll show you what World of Warcraft looks like, because it ain't that.
I know. I'm like, come on. I want to walk you through Shadowglen and just show the rich, deep purples, and like every layer of purple.
And that's the thing. Green. It's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful game too. And that kind of makes me sad too, because it's a beautiful game. But it's all very personal things, right? Because that's a very me thing. Me saying this Endless Tarot is now my BG3 deck is a very me thing. It's not intended to be that. Eric didn't in any way, shape, or form intend for it to be a BG3 deck. I'm just a freaking nerd, and I saw it, and I can't unsee it, and now it's just a thing.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, if I found a cute little animal deck where they look like pocket animals, I'd be like, Pokemon, or Digimon, or Neopets, or insert whatever. Right. And it wouldn't be because they'd copied it. It would just be, like you say, or an immersive world. I have to say though, and it's not, obviously it's got nothing to do with the creators, so it's not anything to do with them, but having seen your, I don't know what it's called. Did you say spellcasters?
Modern spellcasters. Yeah, it's the most unfortunate name for that deck. I don't really even understand it.
If
it's not modern.
If it's available, I'm quite tempted to buy it because
I think it is. It's mass market.
The world of Warcraft in it, and perhaps a few others as well that I like. So it's a bit like some of my woodsy decks. They're not incredibly Arthurian, but because they're based in Britain and because of how they're drawn and some of the characters in them, they give me a bit of an Arthurian kiss, you know, like So I feel like whilst a lot of people and the one that you showed me doesn't make me think of Baldur's Gate, but then I don't play it, so I have only got really the artwork and what I've seen you play to go off of. Whereas having known World of Warcraft far more intimately, even though I just can't remember any names or places. But,
I can't either. I'm terrible with names. So
I would blame it on fog, but also there's so much to remember in that game. Like I have
and nothing's a normal word. It's not a normal word. These are like made up fantasy names. So it's not like Bob or George. You know.
No, it's actually really hard. And then you have like Sylvanus, but then you have another character that sounds really freaking similar.
Really, yeah.
So it's I am because if you get into the fandom spaces, one of the things about the passion is that some people get really frustrated with those of us who don't know all of the names and terms. And we're not that. But because of you showing me and saying this is how you associate it, I'm really keen to try it because I can see it, because I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, I think fandom decks are great and I love seeing them come out, but I actually would encourage people, find your own fandom deck. Because then when you make the associations yourself, then you kind of can create it in a way that works very specifically for you, right? If somebody, it's like, you know, them saying it's a World of Warcraft deck. Well, I don't see that in it. So now there's a disconnect for me, but I can see this in this particular card, in this particular deck that has nothing to do with that fandom, but now it can for me because nobody's telling me, and particularly if it's a fandom that you are, you know, connected to or you're close to, like find your own deck to represent that for you, because then you're not going to be limited to somebody else's view of your fandom. You bring your own headcanon into it, right?
Which is sort of like making your own fan fiction.
Yeah, it's very, very similar.
You don't have to write, which is a bonus for me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's better actually. I prefer the decks that either I've just associated a fandom to them, or decks like the Tabletop or the Eldritch Overload, where they're kind of like loosely based, but they're not trying to depict specific things. Because once you get into that specificity, as soon as you miss the mark, it's a done deal when you're talking about fandoms.
It's really interesting because actually full circle and leaning into our sort of loose titling of our series, you've basically said do it the non-traditional way, like make your own.
Make your own fandom deck.
And whilst I haven't shown it because it's not a tarot, I would say like a good one for being able to associate it with a fandom or like the Citadel. It has so much familiarity for me for anything that's got like rogues and things like that in it, that I can actually attribute, if I wanted to, probably a couple of games to it and sort of enjoy the fantasy lore without, like you say, being at a point where you've got a specific character and you're going, but I hate them in the moon card, or, you know, they're not the Page of Cups, they're the fucking Queen of Wands or whatever. Like it's and again, that's why I think it's probably hard as well. Like I feel like it would potentially be easier to make a fandom oracle.
Yeah, probably, because then it would just exist in its own space and you're not trying to attribute it to anything else.
Yeah. And for some people, they might not even put keywords on it. But even then, I think it's probably a lot easier to just chuck a keyword on and be like, there you go.
Yep. Yeah. So you had an oracle too.
Yeah. So this, whilst not tarot, is pretty non-traditional in that before I show it, because there's not many cards. There's only 12, which does, if anyone's watching and they're like, you hypocrite, because I always say, like, I don't like less than 44, which I don't.
Yeah,
I stand by that. There should be more.
There should be more.
There is a reason why there is only 12. It's taken from a game, but also it's like non-traditional in that there's no book, there's no oracle, divinatory type associate. They didn't even bother. It's the deck was in the game as what can only be, I guess, I'm not going to use the proper term because again I'm connected to the lore, whereas my brother is the gamer on that game. They're like boosters or attacks basically that you unlock that were done as a deck. So, and I will show the other bits just because they're so pretty. So it's called the Deck of Whispers. It's that velvet stuff. So I'm not even going to feel bad for it looking like this because every time I take stuff off of it, you only have to breathe near it, and and then they come in this like really beautiful, So my brother watched the Destiny cinematics, and because it's Blizzard, it's glorious, and I'm really into all of the characters, especially as a World of Warcraft fan, because I'm forever going, they've borrowed that from World of Warcraft. And so this is the Deck of Whispers. Which would be perfect with Diablo.
Yeah, I might have to get it for that.
And you unlocked these cards. I did find out later, apparently there was 44 minor arcana that they later or they had in the game as well. And I'm like, why didn't they put them in with the
Yeah.
But there is nothing. If you don't know who the witch is in Destiny, you are going to fall on your bum, because when you look up the Deck of Whispers, there's like a wiki page on it now, which there wasn't for a while, or something similar. It will tell you the power that it unlocks when you get the card. It doesn't tell you the lore, and no one to date that I can find, unless it's hidden on like a really geeky part of the internet, that I haven't uncovered yet. Like no one has done their own little divination. I think fans have got it to own it because they saw the cards in game and now you can have them for real. And if you dress up for like Comic-Con and stuff and you go as a character and you've got the cards in your satchel, like it's a whole thing.
That's a deck that was made for gamers, not readers.
Yeah. However, I have cracked it, and I have managed to give it divination. And some of it is because I have learnt the lore of the witch, and then I get my brother to like whittle it down and tell me the stupid version as well. And I'm like, come on, where's the divination in this? Like the character, the archetype.
Archetype, yeah.
Some of the words are, lament, like it kind of a harbinger, like they're familiar to us anyway, I think. So there's that. But also the third part of it is just kind of, where is it? There's a card in here. It's, in my humble opinion, here we go, the hardest one for me to have found a divination message for. It's Lacuna. So bearing in mind, again, I don't play. There's 3 of these. They look like sigils to me, or like buffers, which is essentially what they are. And all it says is that it's like something or other void suppression. And so I'm talking to my brother and I'm like, so void, black hole? And he was like, yeah, it's like a big black hole comes up. And I was like, okay, that's the divination meaning then. When you pull this, it's like, what are you void of? What's missing? What isn't present? Or, what's the sort of black hole focal point? But
that's really cool.
It's kind of a dedication, even with just 12 cards. It's been like several conversations with him. I had it all written down. I accidentally deleted the notes and I put it again. So there's nothing traditional about this because it doesn't try to help you in the slightest. And also the wish, which I love the cinematic for this. They get separated, these 2 beings, and they're trying to find each other again, and it's wholesome. I'm not sure if they're good beings I don't sort of follow that, but I mean, it looks like a reptile alien. I'm rooting for it by that point.
Right.
I'm like, I don't play the game, so
yeah.
But my
That's
brother
great.
says to me, it's really interesting because there's various wishes that occur in the game, and some of them are quote unquote bad. So you can only tell what wish it is, and the same with the lies based on the visual. So again, you sort of have to know the lore. But so nothing traditional about it. Incredibly gamer. Like I don't know if they ever intended for anyone to use it.
Right.
And to be honest, when he bought it for me, my partner's like, but you don't play, like, why? Why? And I was like, oh, it's him being sweet. I was like, you're sort of missing the thread.
Yeah.
I was like, because we watch the stuff and I'm always going like, oh, I really love the artwork. And he's like, will you use it? And honestly, originally I was like, oh no, of course I won't. Like, it's just a really sweet present. Why do you use it? I have used it with the World of Warcraft to toughen the bugger up. Because I don't always use that one in the sort of way you do, but it reads like that on its own. So it's like, if I want it to be more gnarly, even though the visuals don't go with each other at all, I use this as a focal point, like what you were saying with your Diablo. And then I pull the World of Warcraft cards around it, and then if I'm feeling extra fancy, it's a deck family thing. Like I have several other decks that I connect with the World of Warcraft that are like tools and navigation that I pull out, and then you can throw dice on it, and it's like a whole gaming experience in the cards. So it's a cool deck though, right?
Yeah, it's very cool. I might have to pick it up because it looks like it would go really well. I mean, my Diablo doesn't. It's got so many people in its family. It's got a huge family, but there's always room for one more. There's always room for one more. It can adopt another kid. My language with my decks is so funny. We should talk about that at some point too. Just the language we use with talking about tarot is non-traditional these days.
Yeah. And very, it's gone into quite like a personalized, familiar personality, relational sort of thing, I think, for a lot of us.
Like I have a deck that is legit an embodiment of a character for me. Like it's gone beyond the deck to now it now represents this character and then all that entails, right? So it's interesting how that's like taking fandom to a whole nother level, because also the deck is not meant to be that, right? So I've taken it and turned a deck that is, I think, maybe about angels. I don't even know if I remember what the original concept of the deck was. It was originally, I think, about angels or something like that. And then I layered in the fandom, and then I narrowed it down further to a single character.
Yeah.
And so that is me really taking that deck and turning it into something that is completely unique to me. And I think that's one of the things about not only just the idea of fandom decks that are legit, like the Diablo or like the Labyrinth or whatever. It's a little bit harder, I think, to personalize in that sense than if you take a deck that isn't intended to be a fandom and you turn it into one, because then you can use your own language with it. I guarantee the creator of that deck did not intend for me to attribute it to a particular set of pixels that doesn't exist in real life, right?
Especially not if it's an angel one.
Right? It's an angel. And I'm like, it works though. It super works.
Yeah.
But that's a very, like, I've personalized that experience. And like, I know a few other people that use the deck in the same way now and have the same associations. But again, those are still very personalized experience. And I think that's one of the things about like taking fandom and adding fandom into tarot.
Yeah.
It does create it. It's so much more personal. Like I have connections and like relationships with some of my decks, right? That's such a weird word to use, but I have certain decks that I really, really love and I have a very big, deep connection to or whatever. But the decks that I've associated with fandom, they're like one step even further than that.
Yeah.
Because now there's a whole nother layer in there of personal connection that exists outside of tarot. and outside of this way. I think one of the reasons why we decided to follow this one from the animals, because it's kind of similar in that way, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's like something else of its own, and in the end, tarot just kind of happens to play a little part in the bigger scheme of things. And for me, I would honestly extend that to like there's a couple of decks for me that I love, that I connect with deity, or working with spirit stuff in particular, that aside from some people obviously don't practice or ascribe to that,
right,
but they can understand it through the fandom lens, in that those decks, it's become, some of them, to a point that I don't use them for other stuff anymore, because it doesn't feel right. And it's really hard to explain that to someone else, because of course I can, like there's no one stopping me,
right,
but it just doesn't feel right. Like relationally, it feels wrong.
It feels wrong,
and therefore they get attributed to that relationship, or that being, or that representation, or whatever it is. And it becomes, like you say, something entirely different. And there is, again, same for me, a fondness in those decks in particular, where it's so much beyond some of my very beloved and well-used readers, but that I could, take or leave if push came to shove.
Yeah.
But not these other ones. So that makes sense to me. But I feel like you'd have started like a nice little fandom riot, really, like because it's like, I'm like, okay, what fandom can I associate to a deck now? There's one deck that I know I could associate to a fandom, but I didn't, because I work with the Fallen Angels as Fallen Angels. So I'm like, I will end up needing 2 of the same fucking deck. So I'm really trying not to, because every time we've spoken about it, that one comes into my mind straight away.
Yeah.
It's like, hello.
Maybe that's what it's meant to be. I'm just saying. I mean, I don't want to discourage like publishers from making fandom decks. If you're gonna make them, make them right.
Yeah, that look like.
Make them right. That look like, because you're using. Here's the other thing. Like I'm gonna harp on it again. It's a visual medium.
Yeah.
Make the visuals match, if nothing else.
Yeah, make it make sense.
Make it make sense. Like, I don't care if it's a pip deck or it's fully scenic or what the hell it is. Just make it visually matched, because it is a visual tool. And so if it visually doesn't match that fandom, you're automatically creating a disconnect at first glance.
Yeah.
Like, in my opinion, and that's part of that is also me coming from a design background. Your visuals speak volumes.
Yeah. But honestly, if anyone does listen to this, which people that make decks like that, I would imagine they should be stumbling across you,
I don't know. They never asked me for my opinion, so I give it anyway. But
yeah, the thing is, you're going to make more money from doing the visuals right, because a lot of people from the fandoms who have zero interest in tarot or oracle or divination or any of the sort are going to buy it for the artwork. That's the simple truth of it.
I mean, I would be curious if I should take my World of Warcraft tarot in to a bunch of guys that I know that play World of Warcraft and see what they say about it, because I guarantee you they're going to make fun of it.
Wouldn't it be good to do a reactions video?
That would be good, because visually it doesn't look like it.
No,
they're going to be like, what is this fluffy pink shit? What are you showing me? This is that's exactly what they're going to say. And I'm harping on the World of
Warcraft book in.
Yeah.
It's there. Look, are we allowed? We're allowed to show a page from a book, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because I'm not showing all
my
of
World
it.
of Warcraft book is in the other
This is
room
the
too.
First Chronicle, Volume 1, and being as I can't show all of the book, I will pick a good piece of art. Oh, they're all good. They're all good.
They're all good. Yeah.
So I'll show that and one more piece, because this is a very. I feel like they often have dominant colours as well. Mm-hmm. So like the greens, the reds. Here we go.
Yeah, that is the world of Warcraft.
And then occasionally it will be like hyper green, right? But aside from that, these visuals don't look anything like. Look
I
at
mean,
it.
that's gorgeous.
It's
Yeah,
so
it's
pretty.
just it just makes it's like somebody opened up that first page with that map and went, "Oh, that's the aesthetic."
Oh, that's true. It does look like the map.
It looks like the map.
It does. Which is fine for a map. Like, we expect our
Yeah.
maps to
A
look
map should look
mappy.
like a map. Yeah, that's great. But
It's map
your
coloured.
your your dragon should not look like a map.
No, but like this just doesn't
Yeah. There,
look.
I mean, it
And
just
I love her, by the way, so I do feel
yeah.
terrible for saying it, but
It's not the concept of the deck.
no,
It's the execution of the art. And
it is.
again, that's nothing against the artist because the art is beautiful.
Oh, for
It's
sure. I hope that
just
the artist gets to do more.
yeah, absolutely. It's just not the right art style for that particular fandom, and
No.
that's a problem, in my
I knew
opinion.
I had something.
I still have the deck, but and this is why I'd rather find my own fandom decks, you know,
Yeah.
find decks that I can associate with and layer in myself. I'm excited to keep seeing fandom decks come out, but just there's always going to run that risk of when it doesn't hit, and when you're in a place, if it's a fandom I'm like meh about, like I like it, like, you know, like Supernatural, I like it, like it was fun. I'm not a huge Supernatural fan. I think I have a t-shirt and I've seen the show once.
Yeah.
So I've
Which is
never
not
done a
Spanish for you.
that's not Spanish for me. If I have not done a rewatch or obsessed over one of the characters in it, it's not a fandom for me.
No.
It's just something that I'm like, this is cool. I liked it. I enjoyed
Yeah.
it. But so like that one, if it doesn't hit the mark, is fine. But when you are doing fandom decks, if it's a fandom that I am like actually invested in, that I want to work with, and that's the thing, like I've not worked with the Supernatural Tarot. I'm not invested enough in that fandom to bring that energy into my tarot work. And the deck itself isn't quality enough as a tarot for me to want to work with it as a tarot. So it just sits on my shelf because I have it and it's there. And it was $10.
I nearly bought years ago, and I have not watched one episode, and no one will ever convince me to. I've seen maybe clips, so I'm really sorry to disappoint everyone, but I've never watched Game of Thrones. I love dragons. I have zero interest in a lot of other aspects. But the Game of Thrones tarot was so beautiful, like so moody, and the right clothing and just all of the things. And I was like, should I get it? Because when I was hearing people talk about why they loved or hated it because it was a bit of a Marmite situation, I had zero investment either way. So it's funny because sometimes, like you say, then it can go in someone's favor, but there's a lot less of people that get a deck when they don't know it than there are going to be who do know it and who do love it. So it kind of needs to, one, look like the thing, two, be by someone who knows and has played, watched, read, whatever is relevant, like is invested enough to know those characters, because even though then it's through their or a team's sort of subjective lens, it's at least one that has been introduced to everyone, so it's more likely to hit more often, I feel like, than not. But I am mega determined now to, at least, because I'm quite keen on trying the spellcasters, but obviously that's just me copying you, so I would like to see if there's anything else I can sort of attribute that's less on the nose, because I've got vampire, like the Robert M. Play, obviously it's mainly Bram Stoker's, so that's quite a fandom-ish deck for me.
For sure.
A bit of Nosferatu and stuff in there, but it's an all vampire-y good time. But I would really enjoy like thinking about just some of the worlds that I'm really immersed in or have been historically. So it would like be that. If people want to do that more, they can come and join your membership anyway, because you do stuff like that historically. Over time you have offered various game
we do a lot of game story based, kind of just the idea of playing beyond what we normally do with tarot, for sure. Because I'm all about the play with it. Like if it's not fun, why am I doing it?
Go to
Like,
this space.
come join the sacred space. Also, it's just a place where I can, you know, say whatever I want and it's fine.
Yeah, it's such a nice release.
It's totally me unedited in that space.
Which is
for
what
sure.
gaming's like as well, right? Like I've only
Yeah.
played D&D a few times, but creating my tiefling character, which took almost as long as the first game, it's such a fucking delight, such a freedom, and such a great expression of, okay, maybe not a full expression of me, and definitely fantasy bits from what tieflings are like, but like a fantasy version of self and aspects that maybe I don't get to live out for whatever reason. Like, I'm not being funny, but cripple. So the fact that she could go and like do shit as well,
right?
It's quite liberating. I think is the word I want. Like, it's I think that's, if people aren't nerds or geek or whatever word people want to attribute of something, if you're curious about what the pull is like to fantasy. Yes, it's nice to dip out of the realities of the world for various other reasons, but it's also, it just gives you connection with things that I feel like we otherwise wouldn't necessarily get, and that's just delightful. So
I have a lot of people in my membership, like doing the practices and stuff. They're not gamers.
Yeah.
They've never played a game. They're not gamers. A lot of them, this was when we did, particularly last year, we do use dice, but it's more optional this year. But last year we did basically what was a D&D campaign that I ran for an entire year, was essentially what it was. And and dice was very much part of that. And for a lot of those people, it was the first time they'd ever held a set of dice, owned a set of dice. I've turned a lot of them into dice goblins now, and I think that's fantastic, because I think everybody should be a dice goblin.
Yeah.
But that whole idea of stepping outside, that's very non-traditional, right? But in a weird way goes back to, like we were saying at the beginning, goes back to the beginning of tarot was a game.
Full circle.
Full circle. We're just now expanding the language of that game. And it's so fascinating. We're seeing it through all these different lenses, whether it's animals or fandoms or I'm sure there's other ones. Those are the two biggest ones, but plants. Oh yeah, we should do a plant one. That would be funny because we both suck at plants.
We do. Hard.
We're terrible. I always want to like talk like I'm a gardener. I can't even keep my house plants alive. Like, they'd be dead if it wasn't for Kevin.
Do you know what? I have 4 houseplants on the go at the moment, but this is all very recent, and literally, like, they're not maybe thriving as much as they would with like a proper person, but they're alive and looking okay. And I'm literally like trying to cash in on the fact that I'm a hero, and I think my partner's just like, what? And I'm like, but people bought me the hardest fucking plants to look after, knowing that I kill every plant inside. And I'm like, the one I bought for myself is a cactus. Because it makes sense. Don't buy me succulents and things that it says not too much light, not too little light, not too much water, too little water. And I'm like, wow, okay. So yeah, it's they've been alive for like a month now.
See, I think that's really good. The all the plants that we have are alive because Kevin takes care of them. Like, he comes in here, all my plants in my office, I don't touch them. I couldn't tell you what any of them are. They sit here and they're pretty, and he comes in and takes care of them, and I'm just like, please don't get dirt on my shit. Like, that's my response to it. Like, can you not get dirt all over my desk? And he's like, do you want your plants?
Living things.
Yeah.
Keep them away from me.
I mean, I joke that like if the dogs didn't make themselves a nuisance, I would forget to feed them too. So it's amazing my kids survived, right?
Maybe that's why children and animals are loud and like
draw your attention.
They're like, remember, I have needs.
You need to feed me. Yeah, that's totally the world I exist in.
Well, we definitely have more ideas, right? But also, I'm curious to hear like if anyone's been waiting for us to do anything in particular, because I know we've done a few deckish ones, but
Yeah, if anybody has suggestions or questions or anything, definitely leave them in the comments because we definitely check them out.
We
And
do.
I don't think we never really have a plan, so we're pretty suggestible.
Yeah.
We kind of just go, oh, this is an idea. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and even in the process, like, yeah, we're just
Yeah.
chaotic little goblins, really, just
Yeah.
finding our way through.
There's no script, there's no plan. We're like, I think yesterday we were like fandom decks, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, let me go find my fandom decks. That was the extent of our planning.
It's so refreshing, isn't it? Because as a
Mhm.
content creator, at least half of the stuff for me is like super planned.
Yeah.
So it's
It has to be.
yeah, because
Yeah.
otherwise it wouldn't get done, and people would be like, "This is not worth my money."
Mhm. Yeah. There's that for sure.
So
Yeah.
this is yeah, it's quite, again, liberating. So
Yeah. Absolutely. And if anybody's got an idea for something non-traditional they'd like us to talk about, definitely let us know.
yeah. And it doesn't
And
have to be that everyone thinks it's non-traditional either, because we've even got into debates about like what is and what isn't. It's like it's a loose, fun way of approaching tarot, right? Because we're just not traditional in the
yeah,
sense.
just in a general sense, we're
Yeah.
non-traditional people.
Yeah.
Just in a general sense. Cool. So there'll be we both have playlists for this on both of our channels, but I'll leave all the links below and links for all Tegan's stuff so you can go and check her out. And I will say, I don't say like, subscribe, and all that for me, but I will definitely say it for you. So if you have not liked, subscribed, followed, do all the things with Tegan, definitely go do that. I'm gonna leave them below.
And
It's
if
okay for
you're
me to say
here
it.
and if they're here and not subscribed to you, I mean, what are they doing anyway?
Well, I assume if you're here, that's the other thing. I assume if you're here, like you're probably already subscribed, because the chances of you finding my random obscure shit on the internet are like,
It gets harder and harder by the year, doesn't it? We get
slim
more
to
and more
none.
niche.
Yeah.